back for episode two, and today we are deep diving into why most men we speak to are doing well on paper. They are working hard, they're providing, they're progressing in their careers, showing up for their families, but often behind the scenes, there is a very different reality. So we're talking lower energy, less confidence in their body, and even more importantly, and I think a lot of people will relate to this, it's just this sense that they're just drifting away from the man they once were, or even more so, the man that they thought they would become. And today's episode is all about this subtle but significant drift. The pressure that many men carry, but as you know, Dave, we already talk about openly. So we're going to explain why modern life essentially just makes it easier for strong men to slowly lose their edge, and more importantly, how they can rebuild direction, standards, and that self trust again. And first question for you, Dave. So you
Mm.
mentioned just before we came on there that, especially at the minute, you're working with quite a lot of high performing men. And similar to what I just mentioned, from the outside, they look successful, they look put together. But you know, behind the scenes, there's a lot more going on to do with their health, their standards, their principles. So, like, what exactly is happening? What do you think?
Yeah, so when I start coaching men, one of the first thing that we look to identify is what's the reason for them looking to change, right? So we do, of course, assessment questions to identify where they are in their journey right now, and then other psychological behavior change questions of what's got them to the position that they're in now and where it is that they want to go. What's the end destination that they're looking for? Okay. So to really serve as an ignition for that journey, we really needed a deep purpose, okay? A purpose that is greater than the emotional pain or discomfort that you're going to feel going through a process of change, which we all do, right? But if that purpose is greater than that emotional discomfort, then you're far more likely to follow through and do what you said you're going to do. Okay, because if you're here and you want to be here, we all seen those graphs, in behavior. It's not this. It's more like this, right? The ups and downs and whatever. And it's easy to be buzzing when you're winning, right? Um, so the first thing that we do is that we have to uncover their purpose, right? Now the thing about purpose is a lot of men don't talk about it, right? Um, a lot of men don't talk about a lot of deep things, right? But when I set the environment and ask the engaging questions and be empathetic enough and vulnerable enough myself to lead and tell them all about my own story, what we usually uncover is a beautiful deep purpose. Number one, a lot of them aren't aware of this purpose because they don't talk about it enough. And number two, a lot of them are too scared to say it out loud. Okay. But when it does happen, a lot of the times it comes back to they really want to serve their family well as best they can, their partner. And if they have children, 99% of the times out of the men that I've coached through this method, it comes down to their kids, right? And I love that. So when we reframe the purpose of change into it's not just a few extra push-ups a week, it's not about just losing body fat and putting on muscle mass for vanity's sake. It's also to do that because we know you're going to live longer. You're going to be a more present individual when you do those things. And now through the vehicle of health and fitness, we're now satisfying that deep purpose. That's a beautiful thing. So we got to be aware of it, and we got to use it to be an ignition for the change and fuel to the fire. That's the first thing. And before I ramble on, what do you think about that? I feel like you
I
have something to
guess
say there.
why why does that purpose go missing? Like, where at what point through, like, adolescence, adulthood, like whatever you want to call it, why is it all of a sudden that it just gets lost? What happens? Like, why don't we just ultimately automatically know that this is what we're working towards? Or what's your thoughts on it?
Oh man, that's a beautiful question. My thoughts go to environment and what may be acceptable in the modern day. Again, it's not enough men talking about it, but again, over coaching hundreds of men, and one of the first things that we talk about is purpose. Is it just by chance that all these men are telling me that this is their deepest purpose, or is it that most men at that stage in their life, if they want to be parents, that's just what the primal instinct of a good, a purpose-driven man is? That's where my mind goes to. That is what I think it is. Why it's lost? It's no one holding the standard. Are you talking about this thing in your group of mates? You're not talking about it in the work office,
For
I would
sure.
imagine, And so I just think the distraction of the modern day and the circles that you spend time with are not in alignment with those kind of topics and conversations, I would say. What do you
Yeah,
think?
I completely agree, and it's actually something we're going to
Mm,
touch on a bit later as well. I
yeah.
think it just comes back to everything now is set up to it's just set up to encourage mediocrity. That's my favorite word, right? And it is true. Everything is about stability. It's about comfort. And ultimately, now, if you are that person in a group of friends who is looking to start a business, who is looking to maybe pull away from the more social side of kind of that lifestyle, I guess, anyone who wants to do something even slightly different, it's not just slightly different. It's you're complete alien to it essentially. An example I give to clients is something I often get faced with is all of a sudden they're finding they might start losing friends. They might start having people ask them questions. Why are you doing this? Do you need to do this? Can you not just relax? Can you just loosen the reins a small bit? And it's gone to the point now where if you are even someone who slightly focuses on themselves, slightly is even slightly selfish, you are an outsider. It's seen as this
Mm,
big thing. For example, health
mm,
and fitness is the biggest example. So if you eat a relatively whole food diet, minimal junk, we all have a small bit, you don't drink much, you're seen as a health freak. Not even someone who's just healthy, you are seen as a health freak, right? If you
yeah,
track
yeah.
your calories, if you eat the same foods for most part of your week, that's exactly how it's seen. So I think that links back into what you mentioned as well is environment is massive because if you're the exception, you're not going to 9 times out of 10 want to speak up because you risk you fear essentially, you risk alienation, and again, a lot of loss comes from that as well, which I think is major. I don't know myself when I kind of kicked into Everton years ago. This first thing that happened, you saw too, friends start dropping off, people you would have considered
Hmm.
friends because the lifestyles don't align, values don't align, standards don't align, and I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with this. I think like seasons of life, everyone is here for a different purpose, a different reason. But I do think it is something that makes it tougher because I think again, society, you want to fit in. Everyone wants to fit in, right? So
Mm,
if all of a
mm.
sudden standing out is the opposite of this, it's easier to go with the flow. And like you mentioned, all of a sudden the guys that you're dealing with, they hit this kind of crossroads like, oh, this version of me isn't maybe who I want to be. It also doesn't align with where I want to be, and it's just bridging that gap.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's brilliant, man. The most resonating point that you said there that I can align with is, having the conversations with people that you need to have the conversations with that you are going through a process of change. And I just had a great conversation about this with a client this week about family pressures, right? This individual is trying to lose weight. It's really, really important to them. Family members are coming over to their house, aunties and stuff like that, and pressuring them to, oh, what are you eating that for? Just eat with us and eat what we're eating, that type of thing. And it's kind of a constant thing, right? So, trying to get them on board with it, but people don't know what's important to you if you don't communicate to them, right? I'll call it a crucial conversation. Step one might be just, hey, listen, I'm going through this journey. It's really, really important to me. I'm changing who I am. I need to change my daily habits. Daily decisions determine their destiny. That's one of the best things my sport psychology
Nice.
teaches.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it, isn't it? Nice. Quadruple D, baby. Don't forget it. But it does. It comes down to the daily habits, right? So if the people in our environment is making it harder for us to do that, then we need to either change the environment, right? The people within it, try to get them on board, try to get them aligned, communicate what you're now changing in, because they don't know. They don't know. They're holding you to the standard of what you were, which got you to the place that you don't want to be today in the first place. They're saying, what do you mean? It's chicken, broccoli, and rice, and healthy fats and nuts and seeds. What are you talking about? You're this and you're that. You're the guy who slugs 20 pints, and you're the girl who eats whatever, the Doritos with me. But you don't want to be that anymore. So you got to tell them.
Exactly.
You're going to be
I think that's
uncomfortable. You got to do it
massive.
anyway. Huge.
You have to just break away from that old norm, which I think it's scary. Like I know when I did it, I went from one extreme to the other in terms of drink and partying and all those
Same.
other things that we
Same, bro.
don't need to
That
say
that's the
much on.
that's
You
the
know what I
Irish
mean?
adolescence, bro. That's the Irish adolescence. That's the environment that we were in, right? And
Yeah.
it's probably just a part of looking to be accepted, and people don't tell you. I think parents don't sit down and tell you, listen, when you go out at 18 and you go to that nightclub and pub and whatever, and you get in all sorts, they don't tell you how good that feels in the moment. Do you know what I mean? Or it's just like, I'm just, if I have a son, man, or a daughter, I'm like, now, sit down here, son. You're about to go out to your first teenage disco, whatever the case may be, or my daughter, whatever. And she's like, listen, you know, when you go on the sauce and the rest, it's going to feel amazing, okay? But the trick is not to fall into the hole so deep that it absolutely just ruins your life, you know? But that's where it was going, man, for me when I was 18. It was. I was skin and bone, man, I was skin and bone before that anyway. Definitely skin and bone, just doing nothing but session as the Irish young teenager, right? And then when I started to identify this is starting to become a problem, I started to distance myself from that. Some people are lost because of that, but I'll tell you one thing: the real ones, man, will come with you. Might take them a few years. That's what happened to me. These guys know who they are. If they listen to this, they know exactly who they are. And there was some resistance from some of those people at the beginning. They're like, "What do you mean, man? You come out with us? Da 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 da. Not a big deal." I was just like, "This ain't working for me. I need to distance myself from this." And it might take 1 month, it might take a year, it might take 5 years, but the real ones will respect you for that. And they'll be like, man, fair play. And then like that again. So absolutely no regrets for doing that. And the people that I don't interact with anymore, do I miss that? No, I don't, because they're still doing the same thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think that's the big thing as well. And like especially you mentioned there with people that are still with you. So I've been in a similar position myself, literally carbon copy. Didn't distance myself so quickly. For me, it was more of a gradual. Right, I need to kind of get my shit together, for want of a better way of
Mm,
putting it.
mm.
But and even now, the people that I have around me, a lot of very different people, different personalities, different environments, ambitions, life fulfillment. But what I've noticed is the traits are all the same. They are the kind of people you can sit with and chat and talk about all your crazy dreams. You're not met with anything except which fucking sounds great. How are you going to do it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Which is that's this the room you want to be in. Because I think as well as that then as well, I think a lot of it when we're younger, for me anyway, it was an escape, right? It was, you know yourself, you have a couple of drinks and you feel confident. All the shit that's going around inside your head, it just doesn't matter. At that point in time, for those 6 hours at night, it's a very easy way of becoming potentially the person you think you want to be at that time. And that's addictive. I know for me, I loved it. I had a great time. I wouldn't go back. I wouldn't repeat it
I
not
enjoyed
even
the
once.
phase. I enjoyed the
Yeah.
phase. Would I go back? No, truth be told, if I just go for a brunch here up in Dubai, best mate's birthday or this, that, and the other thing, or Becky's birthday, if I'm being social, I would call it, going out having a few drinks, 2, 3 weekends in a row, ask Becky came, man. I get to a Wednesday and I'm frustrated at myself because I'm just half a man physically and mentally and emotionally. You know what I mean? I just love striving. Do you know what I mean? And listen, we don't have it all figured out. You know what I mean? This is just who I am, man. When it starts to get in the way, Jesus, another social weekend, this weekend, tree on the trot. We love celebrating for people. We do. Fair play to Becky. That's a great quality of hers. But when it's that kind of 2, 3 weekends in a row, I'm like, oh, this is starting to impact my ambitions. You know what I mean? So it
And I
can't be a
think
recurrent
we
thing for
haven't
me.
exactly, but I think being aware of that is the big thing. Like you know your limit. For me, it is, as terrible as this sounds, like meeting up with some friends once a month is plenty, right? I've
Mm,
quite
mm,
like my own time, my own space,
mm.
and any more than that, all of a sudden it starts feeling like a bit of a chore. Obviously, it never should, but that's ultimately how it can become. And I think again, a lot of it comes down to just like Becky understands that's how you operate, so there's never going to be any friction there. It's like right, you both
Mm,
give and
mm,
take a little as you have
mm,
to.
mm.
Um, maybe sometimes more one sided than not, but that's part and parcel too, isn't it? It's just about finding that balance and having people that support that, I think, is the big thing. And that's what it comes down to. Again, especially I believe if you're spending your free time doing something and it doesn't give you either enjoyment, first and foremost, fulfillment, or brings you some sort of financial gain, then it has to be aligned. There has to be low friction. It doesn't make sense to keep it otherwise.
Yeah. No, it's a fact, man. Yeah, I love it. I love it. Right, I got a question for you, bro. So we've gone through the modern life. You kind of touched on it already, but you know, socially, what happens when a man decides to stop being relatable and starts raising his standards again? So you're talking about that friction already, but have you spoken to any men where have experienced that? Has it held them back before in the past? What comes to my mind is a fear of judgment, a fear of perceived failure, a fear of not fitting in to the environments that they're in right now. Just touch on that for me.
Yeah, obviously I agree with everything you said there, but and even on top of that then as well, I find it can be very identity conflicting that if you are someone who knows maybe there's a higher purpose, that they're meant for more, is just the nicest way of putting it, but ultimately not knowing how to get there, but knowing that it takes stopping doing what they're currently doing or altering it, doing it a slight bit different. I think it's tough because again, fighting back from my experience, that's where it all started. It was from one extreme to the other, and it wasn't easy. I probably went about it a bit more extreme. My stance was that if I want to do this, I need to go all in. So I probably cut off quite a lot of people quite quickly. In hindsight, did it need to be that way? No, probably
Mm-hmm.
not. Lesson
Mm,
learned for sure.
mm,
But I think that's the big part of it is it's just that fear because especially Ireland, and Waterford, Kildare, small towns for the most part, that mentality is hard to break. And unfortunately, as many people will shout for you, there's double that will nearly shout against you. And a
mm,
lot of that again comes from I don't even think it's not pettiness truly. I really don't think it is. A lot of people will probably disagree there, but I don't think so. I think a lot of it is just a reflection of people's own doubts, their own kind of I'm going to say failings, but I don't mean that in that they fucked up kind of way, but just more so the potential that maybe that was what they once had for themselves. Because, and as someone said to me during the week, you'll never see the big fish running with the little fish, right?
mm,
You will
mm,
never have anyone that's doing better than you talk down. It will only come from a place of positivity. How can we help? How far do you need to go? And getting there is tough. It's not easy because you realistically have to break away from everything you knew. And alongside that as well, I don't believe we're encouraged here to live that and lead that sort of lifestyle. What is from the minute you get into secondary school, it's college, it's a stable career, it's a corporate job, and not a thing wrong with any of those things. They're fantastic avenues. But
mm,
there's just not many opportunities explored elsewhere. Like I know, especially the education system now is a lot more comprehensive. There's a lot more willingness to push and promote the likes of the trades, just different avenues of life essentially. And that again is another thing that's tough to deal with because in every aspect of your day to day, from as soon as you're in school until you leave, you are generally pushed towards this one direction. If you don't fit that narrative, which I never did, I hated school. For me, it was just a matter of
mm,
getting it done. College
mm,
was again it's more of a I kind of have to go. You know what I mean?
mm,
Which wasn't
mm,
true, but that's the story I had built up. It takes a very strong kind of person to not break towards that. And there's a couple of friends I have, and they would be those type of characters that they were always true to themselves. They were always, no matter what, the whole way up, whether it was drink, whether it was whatever sort of vice you can think of, they always stuck true to themselves. And what kind of stands out to me there wasn't much fear. I think that was the big one with those guys, that there wasn't much fear. They weren't afraid of doing their own thing, being seen as not necessarily the weird one, but the outlier, right? And
mm, mm,
I think having that is freedom in and of itself, knowing that it doesn't matter what the narrative is, you can fit and make it work for you, however it goes. I do think it is something that is in the process of reform. It's a lot more talked about now. But again, I also think about it as well. The more people talk about these things, the easier it is to stop being relatable, right? And to align those standards. And building on what
mm.
you mentioned, environment is massive. I think we've all probably heard this analogy. If you are sitting in a circle of seven people and they're all alcoholics, you're probably going to be the seventh, right? If you're sitting in a group of seven people and they're all business owners, you're probably going to be the seventh. It's just the way it goes. Your environment is everything, but not just because they're the kind of people you're around, but because they foster the standards and they embody them themselves, but they enable it, which I think is big, is massive. So they're not going to be talking down. They're not going to be trying to run you down. It's going to be, well, yeah, like you can do this. You're going to have to work your ass off. They won't lie to you, but You will have all the support and the belief that is needed. And again, I think back to when I first started as well. I had a dream, I had an idea, I didn't have the belief. I knew I'd work
Mm,
hard enough that I was make anything work, but I wouldn't have said the
mm,
belief was there. That was something that wasn't really within me up until probably a couple of years ago. You know what I mean? Up until that point, it was a case of I know this is where I want to go. I might not believe it, but I truly do know that is what it needs to be. A lot of it then as well is becoming that person, right? We talked about the process of becoming quite a bit last week.
mm,
And I don't think you just automatically become someone. I don't think it's easy. You have to analyze the habits, the daily tasks this person does, how they think, how they operate, and it's just fostering that mindset with that resilience as well. Because if there's one thing you can say for sure, life is going to kick you up the ass time and time and time again. And you know yourself, when you think you're on top of the world, you can be sure there's probably someone following pretty quickly straight after, right? That's what it feels like. But again, it's eliminating that fear. Yes, you'll lose friends, you'll become the outlier, but what you stand to gain on the other side of that is exponential. And that is the
mm,
true kind of purpose. That's where life really begins, living your own narrative, writing your own story, essentially.
mm. And a lot of people will respect you on the other side, and a lot of people say it to you. That's what happened to me again. Not to be, some sort of, guru or anything like that. But, I have changed. I actually have a post going up on social media today or tomorrow just about my journey. Skinny ass kid, man. Couldn't budge off 60 kilograms for a long time. 5 kilograms now. Not enhanced, never was, just ate. Got as jacked as I could, man. 25 kilograms of muscle in a natural way. Like I'm absolutely
Yeah,
buzzing
massive.
about that. And
And
now,
lean
now
as
I'm,
well,
go-
like
yeah, and I'm going to finish that project now. I'm 32 now, and between now and 35, I want to get jacked and try and maintain my fitness level. But that, as well as, you'll see it when it comes out. But like my leaving throw points, man, were 265. That's below the national average, and just always have more potential. Come out of college, went into college, multimedia degree, dropped out of that, and then went working in call centers for 3.5 years. After 2 years in that, I went back to college, excelled
yeah.
because I was
And
just
I think
interested
that's
in
the
the
big thing
topics.
because you mentioned there about always had potential, but that potential is being based off the kind of narrative and the expectation of the environment of that certain time, right?
Mm,
Like what was your
mm,
potential there? Your potential was you could have been better at maths, you could have been better at science, right? But it
yeah, yeah.
doesn't really matter because it wasn't you. So I think that's it's the big thing as well because that can be frustrating. It was very much what I heard the whole time as well. It's like, right, well, you're telling me I have all this potential, but why am I as unhappy with no direction as I've ever been if all that potential
Mm,
is waiting? You know what I mean? So I think it's ultimately one thing is having it, but actually diving deep and figuring out what that potential is, what it looks like, is a game changer. I do believe that's something that there is a bit of a lack in. There's not much help on that side of it. If you don't fit a certain narrative, you're branded as maybe not so clever and it just doesn't care, right?
mm, mm.
So, and actually, talking on all things school and education, something you mentioned has stuck with me a while back, and it's just something you mentioned that most people, men particularly, they don't really have information issues anymore. They have more, it's implementation and system problems. But what exactly does that mean? And for anyone who's listening, like, what does that look like in real life?
Yeah, yeah, I love it, man. We literally have, you know, little interns, little first year college students in our pocket with AI, right? You can type into AI, what is this and this and this, and make sure, link the meta analyses and high quality research papers to back up your answer or whatever. So you read your little review on ChatGPT and then go read the paper and just make sure it adds up. And, you know, the whole point is we've never had more ease of access to information than we do now, right? So anyone that's listening to this right now, are you surprised to hear that you becoming a better man for yourself, for your family and your kids, and for you to do that over a long, good life, that you can also do that and serve your grandkids, is if you eat more vegetables, eat more lean proteins, eat carbohydrates that are high in fiber, drink some water, sleep 7 to 9 hours a night. do some form of progressive resistance training and cardiovascular training and manage your stress and do some mindfulness and stress management tasks. Are you surprised to hear that all those things work? Everyone listening to this right now is saying, no. Did everyone know that? Yeah, most probably. 90% of people did. Are 90% of those people doing those things? No, we're not. We know that based on statistics. The vast majority of people don't hit the World Health Organization physical activity metrics. 150 minutes a week of cardiovascular training on average, 2 to 3 resistance training sessions a week. Most people doing that? Most people are not doing that because all gyms would be absolutely chock a block if nearly 8 billion people in the world are in every gym around the world, right? So most people are not doing it. So what is that? You have the what? You have the information. So what do you not have? You don't have the implementation or the systems or the purpose yet or the desire yet or the accountability to go and do those things. So that's what I mean when I say that. So, and it brings you back to the last point is that why don't people do that? And again, it's the environment that you're in isn't conducive to it. It's not encouraging to it. It's fear of judgment, fear of failure, confusion of not knowing what to do, you know. And the secret to that is that you simply just need to shrink whatever that task is into its smallest form, right? So we'll take the first one. A lot of people that a coach don't eat enough protein and they're not doing the resistance training, is not progressing or whatever, right? Do an assessment, looked at the proteins way lower than what it needs to be. Is the task just eat more protein? It's not. Let's say we have a look. There's not enough protein at all between breakfast and dinner. They don't eat a meal for 8 hours there. Big opportunity for protein at lunchtime. Great. With a very small, tiny, simple task like what types of protein do you like? What is the smallest, simplest
Yeah.
thing that we can do to get you to eat that more protein? And we just shrink the task down until they say to me, until I say to them, on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you in doing that particular task that we've set out that's very specific? And they would say, yeah, that's simple. That's how it starts, guys. What most people do is that they're at 1, they want to be at 10, and they try and make that jump from 1 to 10. And then they fail.
They
And then you fail,
just jump
what are they saying to
backwards.
themselves? Oh, I'm not able for this. Oh, I'm not able for that. That's classic Irish, now that is. Oh, I won't be able for that. That's self-limiting belief. I won't be
Yeah,
able.
why
The
are you
only,
bothering? Like,
yeah. So why would you even do that? So I won't be able. Why would I do that? I won't be able to. Well, you feel like you've done it maybe because of previous unsuccessful attempts, but you literally just got to identify one thing at a time. Shrink it down so that you feel that it is a small challenge, but something that you're very confident in completing. And then when you complete it, you must celebrate it. Micro progression, I call it. It's micro progression. You got to give yourself the pat in the back that, hey, you know what? Allow that time and space to allow that positive emotion of pride come to the surface. But that isn't abundant from where we come from, man. That's not abundant.
no,
But
and I
good
think
coaches know that that's the cycle, right? So that's how we
that's
get into
one thing,
implementation.
and that's one thing I include with every single day. There's one question I have my clients. It's a tick the box on is one win for today. It can be anything, and everyone always laughs when they see it, but it's the power of daily repeatable action. If you are constantly finishing your day on that one positive, you're slowly going to start rewiring your brain. It's not going to dramatic. It's not going to happen instantaneously, but over time, you're shifting the focus away from what we generally, humans in general, are wired to be more negative than positive, I believe, by default.
Mm,
And the example is you could hear you could hear 100 positive comments for a bit of work you did, but you only remember the one bad one, right? I think we
mm,
can all resonate to that. So
mm,
I think that is key. And then something else you mentioned as well. I also think the accessibility of information now, I think it removes the urgency. People know that all the information is readily available. So it's like, right, you know what, I can start tomorrow. I can start next week. It's all there. I know what to do, right? I know what to do. So I can start tomorrow. I can start next week. I actually that just massively exacerbates the issue because it's rare I get someone now coming to me without a lack of training or nutrition knowledge. Everyone knows to a pretty good level, to be quite honest, what to do. It's rare someone comes like, I have no idea about any of this. And in that position, it's a fantastic place to be because it's only going to be up, right? Whereas, and I also think people in that sort of boat, like, they're also can be more willing to work, move with more of an urgency about them. Whereas if you can get stuck with the information is there, it's easier. Just go on ChatGPT. I just look on Instagram and that'll work for me for about 2 or 3 weeks and ultimately falls off. So what's the issue? Again, like you said, it's a daily system implementation. One of the core aspects that we try to directives even we try to instill in clients straight away is we need to make this as enjoyable and as autonomous as possible. So, and what I mean by this, the more thinking we have to do as humans, the more stress we're going to have, the worse decisions we tend to make. We need to essentially design your day, your week, so that you're operating on autopilot for the most part. Because truthfully, going to the gym and eating healthy doesn't require much thought. It doesn't. It's not a complex subject. It's not
Mm,
chemical engineering, right? Where the issue is, it's planning, it's the effort, but it's also it is just aligning things. And I had a chat with a guy not so long ago. So he's a new son, I don't know, maybe 6 months old, but he's still trying to train 7 days a week like he was 5 years ago, and it was just him. You know what I mean? And he's like,
yeah,
well, why am I burned out? Why can't I make progress? And I'm like, well, to be honest, as much as we don't want to never ever let it stop us, like you just can't. You can't. That lifestyle is not going to work for you. You will constantly repeat this cycle. You go hard for 2 or 3 weeks, you'll fall off. You'll go hard, you'll go fall off. Whereas ultimately, it's all about finding a system that works, and that looks different for everyone. So how for us, for example, how your day looks to my day is going to be massively different. And the ones that I see that make the most success, it's the people that just embrace it, that they just have their day to day rock solid, that there's no room for error. Everything is planned. Doesn't necessarily have to be prep, but I'm of the opinion a plan is never going to go to plan. But if you have one in play, it's probably going to go at least 60 or 70% to plan. Law of averages, right? And I believe you can handle that extra 30% because you have everything else locked in. Whereas if you're just winging it through your week, you don't really know what you're having for food tomorrow, you don't know when you're going to get your training in, you're not going to stick it. It's going to be a massive, colossal waste of time, to be quite honest, and energy. And you have to do it all over again 12 times a year.
yeah. No, it's a fact, man. I love it. Um, that's a nice little segue into, that all or nothing mentality and, what is the impacts of those people who try and try again but fail, right? And to those individuals who try, it goes very well for 2 or 3 weeks. A little bit of life happens, small injury, you get sick, you go on holidays,
Yeah.
work gets very, very busy. Your routine is then not perfect, it's getting in the way a little, people stop, right? So that's the all or nothing mentality. It's those people who only operate at 1 out of 10, or those people who only operate at 9 or 10 out of 10, where balance and consistency lives, breathes within that 6 to 8. It doesn't need to be perfect. Just like the example of me going for a 45-minute resistance training session before this podcast, because that is the priority list that I had today, right? I had to get work tasks done. 45 minutes, half an hour. Oh, geez, it's just not that much. It's not the whole thing. It's only half a session, blah, blah, blah. Go and get it done, right? That minimum effective dose. The people who get the biggest return on investment in behavior change, in fitness, and in resistance training is the people who go from zero to a little. Being outside of that bottom 25th percentile in VO2 max, unbelievable study on this. The biggest benefits just come from the people who are not the worst for longevity and strength and muscle mass. Minimum effective dose, 1 to 4 sets per muscle group per week, and a little bit of cardio twice a week. You are the individual who's winning on that. Oh, I only have 20 minutes. Oh, you have 20 minutes. That's all you need. What do you mean? You know what I mean? So I love having those conversations with people. So I can go on and on and on about that, but the self-determination theory is a big one. Uh, self-efficacy, one's belief in their ability to complete a task. Those things are either improving, okay, or they're decreasing based on your relationship with yourself. Anyway, I'm yapping on, but I will go back to it. But what do you think about that, man? What is the long-term impacts on guys who beat themselves up from perceived failures of trying to do this over and over again, but perfectly?
My opinion is actually a bit different than yours on it because that is how I have lived most of my life. Now, for the last couple of years, I have it dialed in that it serves me to the greatest degree. To be honest, there's
Mm,
minimal downtime, but it's also been a lot of trial and error. And it's funny because I get a lot of people that are working in that sort of coming from that sort of mindset and approach. And I actually find that if you're trying to take someone who's used to going like 11 out of 10, 100 miles an hour all day long and getting them to pull back too far, that's actually more stressful for that person than letting them keep pushing. But ultimately, it's building the foundation underneath. Like myself, for example, like for me, because you touched on balance, balance for me is 90-10, and quite happily so. It's as fulfilled as I've ever been. And people will
mm,
laugh, but it's true because there was years where it was just 100-0, right? I tried
mm,
to go back to all of a sudden go back to just 60. It was a nightmare because that disconnect
mm,
just wasn't there. I find if you can channel that sort of mindset and make it work for you, while also understanding that you do have to pull back. So my big thing now is like the weeks that I can go hard, I will go hard. But I also know that right, I will can only do this for so long. So like I need to kind of almost program in just a slower week, just to come back to baseline. But the beauty of that is my slow week is maybe 70, whereas it used to be I'd go 110 and I completely crash out. So I have actually found working with people like this, if you can still give them what they know initially because it's comfortable, it's easy, get them some quick wins, and then you can start rebuilding it. That, like, truthfully, you're going to achieve more than most people working at that level. Like, if you're working at consistently between 80 and 90% year round, you're going to beat most people, right? As you do yourself. But that's all well and good until you lose 2 weeks to just burnout and just hitting the red line. So it's just helping understand that you can operate at this level. You don't have to slow down, but you have to be sure you can actually facilitate it and your capacity allows for it. That's where people go wrong. They will just push, push, push and throw all caution to the wind until they just can't. And grand, like fucking I'm 28, you're 32. We're fine. We just probably need a week of just to slow down and rest and we're going to be okay. If you're in your 40s and 50s, that's serious health conditions, it's years of neglect, and it's too late to learn at that point. You absolutely can, but you're doing damage control, right? Back to the original point, I think some people are just hardwired that way. I have always been that way. It's some of the best progress I've made has come from that approach. But you do have to be strategic about it. And I do agree that there needs to be at least an awareness and understanding of when to pull back, that you can't just keep pushing 100 miles an hour. Something will break. But that doesn't mean you go back to zero. It doesn't mean you go back to 10 or 20. It just means you shift back from 90 to 60, 70 for a while, right? But it's funny because that is one thing that I try to do a small bit differently. Like everyone, like sustainability is thrown around 24/7 right now. And how I kind of approach it, and especially with a lot of the guys I work with, like they want to work, they want to fucking go for it. So I'm like, let's go for it. Let's just push hard. But from the very beginning, there's a caveat. We can push hard, but there has to be aftercare, right? There has to be a period following this push where we have to slow down, and that's where we build in the stability. So we can push hard and get X results in half the time, but that does come at a cost. And if you're willing and you understand that, then it's fine. It's fantastic. Is that the right approach for everyone? Not at all. I have a lot of clients as well who we just kind of move along nice and steadily. But I think it's also understanding because similar to telling someone like me that I need to just take the foot off the gas altogether, if you tell someone who thrives on just stability and just that consistency to start really pushing it, you'll send them the other way as well. So I think it's the power of awareness. Like if you can understand these levers, when to push, when to pull, you can build an unshakable foundation. And again, like arguably, if you have any sort of ambitions, it's going to require a bit of grit and perseverance. Probably is. It's impossible to achieve anything absolutely great without having some level of overreach. Like it would be fantastic in an ideal world, but it's not always possible. And I also believe the whole kind of the sustainability factor can be just a safety blanket for people. Well, I can't push too hard because it's not sustainable, or the reason it's not sustainable is because the beliefs you hold just don't align with what you actually want.
mm.
So you can push hard for 12 weeks, you can push hard for 16 weeks, and then maintain for a couple of weeks after, do your recovery. That's sustainability because you fucking made great progress, you've kept it. that's literally what the aim of the game is. I just think it comes to understanding the kind of person you are, how you need to push, and just being aware of like the downfalls and the pitfalls of these different approaches. Because again, it's the power of coaching, isn't it? It's the power of people. Like no one person, no two people are the same.
Exactly,
That's
man.
just it's so that's my overall stance on it. It is something that I actually find it works quite well with a lot of my clients.
Mm,
Especially like when life is good, man. When life is good and easy and stable, fucking go for it. Because it
mm,
doesn't happen too often. If you can make more progress in a stable period of your life, then it doesn't matter if the following period is a bit rocky due to life, just life kicking you up the ass because you've maybe taken 12 steps forward. So now maybe you only take another two steps forward, but you've still managed to maintain at the very least, but still squeeze out some level of progress. So yeah, like look, the all or nothing, I think when it's left unchecked and unfiltered, it's a major issue. As again,
mm,
it did cause me more strife than not. But if you
mm.
can channel it, and if that is truly the life you want to live, and that's the game you want to play, then it just takes more diligence. It just takes more understanding and awareness that you truly can't live on the red line forever. The bill always comes due in some form.
Yep, 100%, man, 100%. And yeah, I mean, we know that consistency is the aim of the game. You know, those who are more
Yeah.
consistent, on average, are more consistent and are therefore able to stay in the game, whatever game that is. You playing your sport, you just trying to be consistent in the gym. You're showing up for your family mentally and emotionally, whatever it is. Uh, those who do it more consistently will be better than the individuals who are doing it on and off. You know, one really good week, one really good month, one good quarter of the year, and then nothing. Do you know what I mean? It does. It comes down to checking that all or nothing mentality, and you can do it in this way. One theory that I absolutely love, that I loved in sports psychology, if anyone listen does any form of coaching certification or a bit of psychology in any university degree, you're going to come across the self-determination theory. So the self-determination theory of motivation is basically a concept of how we behave, you know, and what motivates us. And it comes in three different parts, right? The first part is autonomy. You need to feel like that if you're going through a process of change in anything that you're looking to do in life, you need to feel like that you're the one making that decision for you. You're not doing it because your partner says you got to get to the gym. Do you know what I mean? You're not doing it because whatever your best
You have a
mate's
wedding
holding
in
you.
12 weeks.
You have a wedding in 12 weeks, you know, an extrinsic motivator. You got to do it because you want to do it and it comes from you internally, right? If you have that and you feel like that you are in control and it is your decision and you want to do it because you want to do it and no other reason, that's a beautiful fuel to the fire. And you will be motivated. Motivation wanes, guys. We can't rely on that. It's the worst currency we have. We've got to rely on daily habits and decisions once we go into that. So the next one is relatedness, right? You have to feel supported in the process of change, motivation, behavior, whatever you want to call it. Okay. Where do you get that? In the environments that we were talking about earlier. You get it from your best mates who are giving you slagging because you're doing the whole gym thing now and all that. That that's not relatedness. You know what I mean? Getting a coach, being going to a gym, doing a CrossFit class, just being in the environment where the daily habits are the norm for the outcome that you want. Now you're going to feel related, or a coach in your corner that's bigging you up all the time. Okay, and then the last one then is competency. You need to feel competent in the thing that you're doing. Okay. And this is where the all or nothing individual gets it wrong, in my opinion, because they go all in, one mistake, one thing, not, I won't be able to do perfectly, I'm out. You know what I mean? And it might be again that fear of looking stupid or whatever the case may be. But it comes back to that little thing of shrinking that task down to whatever you're doing, that one task into something small enough that you are confident in doing it. Do it because the data suggested that you're going to do it right, and then celebrating it. Competency up, and that's going to improve a thing called self-efficacy, which is your belief and your confidence in completing tasks. And once that's up, we're on a roll. We got momentum now. And then we're like, oh, I don't need, it doesn't need to be perfect all the time. It's just this small little thing, like going to the gym for 30 to 45 minutes today, like I did, instead of the 90 minutes that I usually would. All right. Now I'm ticking that box. My self efficacy is still up. Mental health is through the roof right now. We're buzzing. Whereas I've only 30 minutes to train, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
That's not the way to do it, guys.
And
So be
alongside
consistent,
that
stay
then
in the
as
game long
well,
term.
motivation is Motivation comes from doing. Motivation does not just happen. If you're sitting on the couch all day eating shit, you are not going to feel motivated no matter what you do. What'll happen? You go for a walk 3 days in a row. You go get a couple of workouts done. You eat a small bit better. That's all of a sudden you're motivated. That didn't just happen, regardless of your goal. Because I've talked to people with unbelievable goals, right? And they're still talking about those same goals a year later with no progress made because the motivation never comes. It never comes and always goes. So, and ultimately, I see it as well. I'm sure you do, Dave. When you start something new, motivation is always high. The novelty is there. It's interesting. It's engaging. But that fades pretty damn quick, and that's ultimately when you're going to find out if the systems you've built are aligned with the goals you actually have and hold for yourself. And because a lot of people say, oh, they just didn't want it bad enough. And I do agree to a certain extent with that because you can like just want it bad enough and outwork everything. But I think a lot of times, if you have your system set up against you, it doesn't really matter what sort of motivation you're looking for, it's not going to be there. And that just again further reinforces the points I've already made that if you have your system set up that you can operate autonomously, the likelihood of you reaching your goal is inevitable. And the cool thing about that is it doesn't feel like you're doing any hard work because it's just your day to
Mm.
day. For example, there's one client he's working with him about just coming up on a year, so we've seen all different seasons of life, and from day one, literally he lives about 90% plus adherence week after week after week, and he is the most chill guy you'll ever meet. Nothing shakes him. It's just he goes to the gym, he works, he eats his food, he does everything he needs to do. There's no friction, there's no fuss. It's just all part of his weekly routine. One of the big things he does, he goes to the gym, he gets his exercise done straight on after work on the way home. So he's built it into his day, and black or white, that is the most successful way of staying on track. If you everyone works, everyone kind of has to work at this stage, the way the world has gone. But if you build it on to your day, you're never going to miss. If you go home, sit on the couch for an hour, and I've had this chat with people time and time again. And that is the issue. It's not that you're not disciplined. It's not that you're like not motivated. It's just your systems are pulling you to complete other direction. And then that comes down to alignment, right? If you haven't truly aligned your systems with your goals, and that's where you don't want it bad enough. That's where you just talk about wanting it because you haven't actually taken the actions, implemented the changes, made the sacrifices that's actually required to get you where you need to go. So when people are giving out on not having got a certain result or falling off track, if you've genuinely made an effort and you've designed things and sacrificed, then the likelihood of that happening is slim to none. There are exceptions, of course, there is. Like life can be horrible at times. There's always exceptions, but I feel the majority is not a case of not wanting it bad enough. It is just it's a prioritization issue and it's a systems issue. If your systems are set up for success, you don't have to think. You don't even have to think about going to the gym. It just happens as part of your week. And when that's the case, then it doesn't matter what sort of goal you set. You're already on the way to it.
Yeah, I love it, man. And if you ask me, it just comes down to having that daily system set up in a way that you're, especially when you're starting changing something, right? Like you're not going to the gym already, you want to start because you know it's good for you, whatever the case may be. It's just about setting up the tasks, the little daily targets in a way that it is this constant success 80% of the time. You know,
Yeah,
we're not going to do it 100% of the
absolutely.
time. We're not robots, right? Life does happen, but it's set up in this way. And again, we're shrinking these tasks down to tiny things that again, I'm just going through the me going to the gym today because that's just what I have today, right? But it's just that I'm buzzing that I did it. You know what I mean? Like I won there, and now I'm saying to myself, nice one, Dave, fair play for that. That's a psychological win. You do that every day, most days, 80% of your days in any process of change that you're doing. You're now increasing what? You're increasing your self-efficacy. And you're coming from here to there. Now what you're doing, you're changing your identity. It's something that you weren't doing before. Now it's something that you're doing consistently, daily, over the process of change. The first stage goes from conscious thought, conscious effort, high friction. Okay, that's how it starts. Oh, I have to go to the gym. Oh, I nearly forgot. Blah blah blah. It's full of effort for you to go and do it. You have to think about it because it's not your norm. And then over time, Again, if you set it up in a way that you're congratulating yourself for doing every win as you should, because of these psychological wins, you're going to enjoy that process. Oh, yeah, I feel good actually. Yeah, I did that. I am proud of myself. My coach is telling me he's proud of me. That's amazing. All my friends are starting to notice. I'm enjoying this now. Now, because I'm enjoying it, I'm going to start going a bit more. And then all of a sudden, if you do it for long enough, it's just unconscious thought, unconscious effort, low friction. Boom, it's just who you are. I'm just a guy who's going to the gym since he's 18. But I wasn't like that when I was 18. Never forget, I was in the gym one time. I was that skinny kid. I was looking around. I was that skinny guy lifting the lightest weights. And I was looking around. And I was about to leave. Man. I was like, I'm nothing like these guys here. I'm nothing. I was about to leave, but I didn't. I'll never forget it. I'm 32, man. I was 18. How many years ago was that? I don't even know.
You can see the grey hairs
Quick
coming through
maths,
already.
quick maths. But I didn't leave. You know what I mean? And just what a psychological win that is, and therefore it just became part of my identity now. There you go. So that's the formula, right? Write that down.
That's the key though, isn't it? Like it's all well and good. It's all well and good saying you'll do all these things and thinking about doing these things, but like if you're still months in thinking about all these things that have to be done, you've missed the mark at that point. Usually, the most of the guys I work, most clients I have, by week 6, if not earlier, we have hit kind of like what I call integration, where weeks motivation is gone at this point. Truly, for the most part, motivation is gone, but and weeks start getting a bit more hectic just because you're walking into different seasons of life, especially coming into summer. Things get more challenging, but what you see is the foundations are built, habits are still hit. So what feels like and maybe a not so good week, maybe just had one variable off compared to week 1 where there is nothing aligned, and that's going to be key. If you can get yourself to that point, you never regress. And this is the example I always use with people. Like I'm sure you can think of a friend or a family member who has made fantastic progress only to end up 10 times worse 6 months later, right? They don't keep any of
Mm,
it, and that is
mm,
because that their identity never changed. That yes, they stayed effort focused, which you have to a degree, but ultimately the problem was they didn't see themselves as that person that is fit, that is healthy, that does all these things because that is who they are. So as soon
mm,
as I'm just going to use the example for when someone finishes with a coach and they go backwards, it's very easy to say, "Oh, I just wasn't taught what I needed to," and that
mm.
can be the case for sure. But more likelihood is if you're still repeating and making the same mistakes at that point in time, that's where regression comes from. It doesn't just magically happen.
Yeah, facts. Man, there's this paper, right? Obesity research. The weight that you lose, right, is considered a success if it is still off a year later. Your 12-week coaching program summer shred don't mean diddly squat, man, if you put that on 3 months later. What does it mean? Your health markers improve for that 3 months. Fantastic. If you're back to where you were, what does it mean? What did you gain in investment there? You received a 12-week journey. That was it. It stopped at week 12 or 6 months later when you put it all back on. Daily habits, education, equipping the individual, teaching the individual how to fish, not giving them a fish. That's how we know that whatever results you get are there 1 year later because you're doing the daily habits. That determines your destiny 12 weeks later, not 12 months later. There we go. I need more protein.
Fantastic. It's almost good enough to finish on. Almost. So
Love
one
it.
last question for you,
Yeah.
Dave, and I know you like these kind of questions.
Hit me.
If a man commits today to rebuilding his health, structure, and identity, what does his life look like in not just a couple months' time, but the next 5 to 10 years?
Mm, yeah, I love it. Health, structure, and identity. Yeah. So, you know, health is the foundation. Daily decisions, daily habits, are the foundation to that also, as we know, right? So if your health improves, you're going to live longer. Okay. We talked about this last time. You're going to live longer. Your chances of getting diseases are significantly less. And if you do get a disease, you are well equipped that you're going to survive that disease. Okay. Whatever that case may be, cancers, etc. Okay. So that's the first thing. And then based off that, if you are healthy, okay, for me, the foundation is sleep, stress management. It's very hard for an individual to get consistent results to sleep 5 hours a night. So it's just one of the first things that I attack. Sleep, stress management is the foundation for individuals to become consistent in their nutritional decisions, okay, and then therefore consistent in their training output, right? So sleep stress management is the foundation for me. Then we can build on that. So when you're healthy, then for me, you can go into the performance realm. because you can tolerate more stressors. You can tolerate progressive resistance training programs far longer. You can tolerate progressive cardiovascular training far longer. And because the psyche is good and confidence is good and self-efficacy is up, you're just on this momentum of just, you can go in any direction that you want, any direction that you want. And again, with these men that are in similar age bracket to what we're in, a lot of them just want to take that new energy, that new vitality, and just roll around the ground with their kids, man, for an hour or two while not being in pain, having the energy to do so. Just giving that vigor for life, giving it out. One thing that I was thinking about before this podcast was this word altruism. Don't know if I'm saying it right, but that's really what I'm thinking about when I kind of rebranded Connected Coaching a year ago, which is health and fitness and strength and all that and blah blah blah. It can be real vain, right? Pictures in the mirror, selfies, whatever. Listen, I'm living that season myself right now because I just want to finish that project, right? But it all just means nothing, man. If it's about vanity, right? It all just becomes about me, 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 me. But if we're altruistic and we're doing that to get the increase in energy and vitality and good psyche, good mental and emotional health to serve somebody else, like your partner, your parents, your kids, your grandkids. 5 to 10 years, man. You are fulfilling your duty as a man. You're fulfilling your purpose. That's what it's about for me.
It's
You know?
powerful. And even building on that then as well, for me obviously quite a different kind of background, ambition, scenario, is it's having that independence and capability the whole way through your life to do whatever you set your mind to. You're not restricted by age, you're not restricted by illness, you're not restricted, and look, we all try our best in these things, but we all know plenty of people, family, friends, that you hit a certain age and it's just all downhill from there. Life is ending, right?
Mm.
You're about 8 years off at yourself there.
Why'd you think I'm going back into bodybuilding, man?
But it's just, but that's what it gives you. So on top of everything you said, it gives you that independence. So that the whole way through your life, you can do whatever you set your mind to. There's no reason in your 60s and 70s you can't be as fit as your 30s and 40s. Absolutely not. And I've seen it firsthand. And that in and of itself is powerful. Imagine having a full quality life the whole way through. And again, it comes from just doing what most people don't, which is actually truly looking after yourself, taking responsibility for your actions, but ultimately also just being able to make the sacrifice and just work hard enough for long enough to make it happen, because there's a reason not everyone gets there, because it's life is just set up to keep us comfortable, and that is going to take probably the toughest road, but the reward, as we know, and at the end of these roads, is always more than worth it, in my opinion.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I could harp on for another hour, bro. I really could,
Yeah,
especially the
I don't think.
physical decline post 35. I'm going to give it 30 seconds, bro, because this is an important one, right? What you said there, right, about being in a certain physical, mental, and emotional capacity at 60 to 70 is absolutely achievable, guys, especially for the people who are never anywhere near their maximum physical potential as a young athlete or in their 30s or 40s. If you're an individual listening to this now and you are 35, 40, 50, and you haven't done the whole resistance training cardio thing ever, you are going to see substantial gains. The newbie will see substantial gains. If you're 80 years old doing weights for the first time, you see substantial increases in strength. You know, this is the way, guys, in any way that you want. So it's really not this normalized acceptance of this post 35. No, I don't even think I was never even near my maximum physical potential. I've worked with some unbelievable athletes who truly are some of the best CrossFitters in the world. Anyone who's elite at their sport, trying to push to be the best in the world in anything, they're probably close to their maximum physical potential. I'm kind of jack of all trades. I was average at everything, right? That's just the way it was. So just have that perspective, guys. It's just not over when you get post 35. It's just not,
Absolutely
so
powerful.
valuable. Mm.
And that is episode 2, done and dusted.
Yeah,
For
yeah,
those
go
of you
for it,
who
bro.
have made it this far, we have an immensely valuable episode coming next week. Our first guest episode with Gaz Burtonshaw, 7-figure business owner and founder of Impact Physiques, one of the fastest growing online coaching companies in the game at this minute. And when I say this man has seen all seasons of life, he has truly seen all seasons of life. So make sure you don't miss it. And if anyone has any questions for Gaz, just let myself or Dave know. We will see you next week.
Yeah, love it. Just a quick one on that, guys. Gaz is also a fellow Irish man. He's quite a character, and he has an amazing story as well, by the way. And I'm a ex CrossFitter turned average bodybuilder, not in a not in a competitive sense, but just go on to Gary's Instagram. The guy's jacked. You know what I'm saying? He is
Send
jacked.
him a message. Send him a message and ask him what he thinks of CrossFit as well. Ask him if he does programming for it.
Yeah, we'll have a great conversation next week about that. Anyway, team, thanks for
Super.
listening. That was a great conversation. Hope you enjoyed it. Please let us know what topics you want us to cover, and thank you for making it this far. Appreciate you. And get uncomfortable. That is
See you
the key
next week.
message for today. Good luck.